This week, we get a bit adventurous as Crystal Dynamics tells us all about what's going on in Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is out right now. We chat to Avalanche Studios to find out more about the explosive Just Cause 3, and catch up with PAX Australia musical guests the Doubleclicks to discuss hanging out with cats at parties. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week the new Xbox One experience finally rolled out to gamers around the world. As well as a substantial graphical update, the 1.2 gig download brings with it improvements for chat and messaging and the usual tweaks and upgrades, which add up to a dashboard that promises to be 50% faster than the old one. The update also re-adds a functionality that has been missing since the Xbox One launched 2 years ago, the ability to remap your controller to your liking. You can reconfigure buttons, analog sticks and triggers, and your preferences will all be saved to your gamertag. Even more exciting than all that though, this is the update that has finally brought backwards compatibility to the Xbox One, meaning you can play a whole stack of Xbox 360 games on the new console. The initial list stands at more than 100 games, with more set to be added real soon now. Basically, if you owned a game on Xbox 360, you can now play it again on your Xbox One, and that includes any DLC you may have bought on the old console. However, there is at least one fan favourite that's missing from the list: Red Dead Redemption, which has topped backwards compatibility wishlists since Microsoft announced its plans back at E3 in June. It turns out that Rockstar Games, as well as assorted other publishers, have cut some pretty specific deals with license holders, which meant that these games could be released on one platform, but not on another. For something like Red Dead Redemption, we're guessing that music played a big part, but for something like the Madden series, you can imagine how many sponsors, players and brands are involved, making the jump to new hardware anything but simple. Microsoft has said that it is still working closely with developers and publishers, so don't rule out the return of John Marston just yet. Skipping to a very different console right now, and Nintendo held its first Nintendo Direct since May, and the 40-minute presentation was packed with information. Highlights include the re-release of Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow for 3DS Virtual Console, the news that Final Fantasy VII's Cloud is joining the Super Smash Bros. Roster, the reveal of Pokemon Picross, a free-to-start puzzler for 3DS, a stack of new content for Super Mario Maker, Splatoon and The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, and the introduction of Linkle, a sort of female Link set to join Hyrule Warriors Legends. Technically, she's not a gender-swapped version of the Legend of Zelda hero, with some rumours suggesting that she's actually Link's sister, but the new girl on the block has come armed with twin crossbows and will hit the 3DS in March. In other news, it seems that the EA Sports cover curse may have spread well beyond the Madden series. Last year, we saw UFC star John Bones Jones involved in a hit-and-run accident after appearing on the cover of the MMA title. This year, Chicago Blackhawks star Patrick Kane didn't even make it to the cover of NHL 16 before he was dropped following a police investigation into a sexual assault case. And now there's Ronda Rousey, who had a seemingly untouchable UFC career, the bantamweight champion racking up 12 wins in her first 12 fights. Then she was announced as the cover star for EA Sports UFC 2 and suffered a shock defeat to Holly Holm just a few days later. That Friday the 13th game has been successfully funded on Kickstarter with just 1 day to spare. The game, now with the infamous sleeping bag kill included, is due in mid-2016 for PS4, Xbox One and PC. And while we're all hoping that one does actually make it to shelves, we've learned about another game movie tie-in that didn't do so well. It seems there was a Jurassic World game in the works at Cryptic Studios, but this one was axed even before it was announced. Artwork from the third-person action game has surfaced, showing off some pretty impressive dinosaurs, with word on the street suggesting it would have been similar to H1Z1. Now, you'd think Star Wars The Force Awakens director J.J. Abrams would have his hands full with the movie coming out in just a few weeks, but apparently he's had a little spare time working on a game with Infinity Blade director Chair Entertainment. It's called Spy Jinx. It blends action and real-time strategy with dynamic world building. It uses Unreal Engine 4, and that's about all we know. And finally this week, want to know just how popular Fallout 4 really is? Just hours after the game's release, it was the most played game on Steam with more than 470,000 players, overtaking both CSGO and Dota 2 to take the top spot. Bethesda hasn't released any sales figures just yet, but the company tells us it has shipped around 12 million units worldwide in order to meet day one demand, and it's shipping still more to meet ongoing market demand. Fallout 4 was also the most pre-ordered game this year according to retailers, with many reporting the Pip-Boy edition was also the fastest selling collector's edition of any game in history. The companion Fallout Pip-Boy app was also the #1 game on the iTunes App Store, while Twitch reports the game has set the record as the most viewed title launch of 2015. But all of that is just numbers, and numbers don't really mean anything unless you have something to compare it to. So here's a comparison for you. The day Fallout 4 launched, adult entertainment site Pornhub reported a 10% slump in traffic from gamers. To their credit, the site says it wasn't too surprised. For more information on any of these stories or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
Yeah, oh, hi. Are we, okay, we're live. Live, hi.
A secret entrance. Only Dad could have seen this.
One of the things I'm very proud of that Crystal Dynamics does is that we build independent stories as well. People can jump right into Rise of the Tomb Raider and enjoy that from start to finish and not be confused at all. However, there is a lot of hints and clues as to the prior games, so I really encourage people, if they want to delve into that world, they can by playing the reboot of the series from 2013. We looked at all of our fans' requests, we looked at the 20-year history of the franchise, and we looked at what we wanted to expound upon and build upon. And the tombs really spoke to us, bringing back some of that ancient and epic spaces, the large, extremely iconic spaces that promote that sense of wonder in our players. And then, of course, the deadliness and the multi-chambered aspect of it is super important. I think all of those things play into what it means to be exploring and solving those puzzles in ancient tombs. I think one of the key things that we always are looking at is who Lara Croft is. Everyone has an opinion about her, and in the reboot of the franchise, we're looking to make sure we're expounding upon that story and really isolating some of those universal truths that make her a strong feminine hero. One of those universal truths is being able to understand that there are sacrifices and there are things you're going to have to do in order to get to the heart of the root of what it means to expose truths to the world. That involves sacrifice and loss, something that we all can identify with. That to me is a universal truth that when we look at making this story and we look at making the adventure of Lara Croft, those are important that everyone understands that and they can grasp those concepts. One of the best scenes in the game right now, especially in Rise of the Tomb Raider, is when she is confronted by her friend Jonah about some of the sacrifices that she's been making and some of the things that she's doing in order to uncover these truths. Those are universal. Those are things we can all latch onto. So independent of it being a male or female thing, that's something that we all can identify with and that makes a strong character.
Damn it. Come on.
The reboot showed that we really were looking heavily into what our depth and breadth is of our RPG systems. We looked at adding a whole new crafting element and a crafting system to the game that really plays into all of those things. We have over 50 different skills that you can choose from in 3 different trees. Each has 4 different tiers. And then we have an entirely new system called the translation system, which plays on Lara's adventures and translating of languages. Those are all really very important aspects of who Lara is and how she is becoming the Tomb Raider in this game.
Some kind of marker. I can't quite make out the translation, but this word. Prophet! This is it. Dad was right.
The Xbox One platform gives us the power to do a variety of different things. One thing that's very important to this game and makes it look so jaw-droppingly amazing is our lighting system. We've been able to actually build everything from the ground up. We have a global lighting solution. It's a physical-based renderer that allows us to do a lot of soft shadowing We actually have a lot of different, we have a variety of different layering of textures that we do. We have a bunch of new shaders for skin that allow some subsurface scattering for that lighting. We have an entire hair simulation, and then we have snow deformation in the world. So not only do our worlds look great, but our characters look great as well. Also what we built from the ground up, a lot more of our animation techniques. A lot of the animation that we do in Lara's face has more blend shapes and more morph targets. All of those things actually allow Lara and her expressions to come out, and we really get that drama and that sense of who she is as a character. We do a lot of motion capture with Camilla Luddington, so all of her great performance comes through in the character, and you're going to see a lot of that on the Xbox One. So I think one of my favorite moments are some of those nods that we do to the classics of the series and some of the things that we know from the days of yore. Obviously, we have a long 20-year history. One of my favorite things that I think that players are going to discover as they play the game is some of Lara's animations involving her traversal. And I think if you look very closely and if you play with the controller a little bit, you're going to find a very cool thing in how she gets into water. And I won't say anything more than that, but play with that and you're going to notice something very cool.
Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen from Player Attack. We are at PAX Australia. I am with Roland from Avalanche. We are talking just cause. We have Rico hanging out here and blowing things up, and we get to re-meet him again and really soon. How did Rico get to where he is in Just Cause 3?
I never really thought about it, Rico. But there's a difference between you look and you see. Look at Medici. She's beautiful. She's a jewel in the sun. But you see Medici. She's completely rotten.
So we started with wanting to know who Rico was a little bit. Like, how did he become Rico Rodriguez? And so we looked at where he was when he grew up. So he was born in Mexico, and he moved to Medici when he was a little kid. His mother's from there. And he grew up there in Medici until he was a teenager. And then Di Ravello, the evil dictator who holds the island, took power in a night we called the Night of the Bonfires, and a coup that took over power. And Rico had to escape because his parents were killed, and he disappeared, and he ended up meeting Sheldon of the agency and ended up working with them, and then Just Cause 1 happened in San Espirito and Just Cause 2 in Pinau, and now he's kind of learned to be a dictator removal specialist, and he's going to use all those tools to come back here to his hometown to finally depose the dictator that started it all. So many years ago, I think the kernel of the idea came from one of the founders of the studio, Christopher Sundberg, who invented this crazy action hero who is a Latino action hero diving from a sky. And the initial concept was, I want to be able to jump out of a plane and free fall down to the earth, stunt straight onto the top of a vehicle, and continue that all in a single chain without ever braking. And so that challenge was kind of put out to a team, and Just Cause 1 was kind of invented out of it, and Rico had a gun that was a grapple hook gun. And then in Just Cause 2, it was like, that grapple hook is so cool, let's now make that a key part of what it means to move around, and combine that with the parachute. Suddenly you can slingshot your way around the world. And we saw the player creativity that came out of it. I mean, there were 12 million videos uploaded to YouTube of Just Cause 2. So big fan, hardcore fans out there who are doing some amazing things with it. And then the modding community was like, look at what we can do with all these systems. So, as devs, you're like, wow, the mod community has done some pretty amazing things. We have Just Cause 2 and a great fan base behind it. How do we get Rico Rodriguez to be bigger, more explosive-y into this world? And so we looked at things like the grapple hook and added, now you can have up to 6 grapples in the world at once. You can actually control the tension of the grapple line, which is really fun because you can put a car to a shipping container, and real physics will happen. So the shipping container might move slower than the car, and then they'll smash together and explode, most likely, as everything explodes. And then we decided to put in things like the wingsuit. So now you can soar through the world, and combine that with the grapple hook. You don't just have to go down the mountain or down towards the water. You can actually go up the mountain using the grapple, wingsuiting kind of upwards, which is pretty fun. And of course, all the vehicles. We have over 80 vehicles in the game, helicopters and bombers and fighter jets and giant destroyer boats and F1 inspired race cars. And it's one of those games where you have all these toys at your disposal, and it's really up to you what you want to do, and hopefully it makes you smile. And the team that was working on our vehicles, we wanted to rebuild it from the ground up from Just Cause 2. It was something our fans came back to us. They wanted weightier, stronger vehicles. And it can be a challenge because in a big game like this, there's so many mechanics, so many things to do. How much energy can you pour into it? So we got lucky, and some guys who worked on Need for Speed and the Burnout series came on board, and we're like, we're gonna make awesome vehicles in this giant open world. And at first, a lot of people say, well, you've got a wingsuit and a parachute and a grapple hook. Why do you need vehicles? And that is actually the challenge that you give to designers and programmers and artists and animators and sound designers and VFX people, to say, make vehicles so much fun that people will want to use them, and then you'll have a great feature there. And so we rebuilt it so you can drift them perfectly around corners, and you can after touch it in the air, so you can kind of do a backflip in a vehicle if you want. But of course, you can stunt on any vehicle. So be it a jet, you can stunt out and actually walk anywhere you want along the wings of the jet while it's flying around, and still grappling and shooting rocket launchers from it and so forth. You can also take any vehicle in the world and take it into a challenge. And so we kept trying to think, how do we open up this toolbox? So normally you get in a race and we recommend, here, take this vehicle. But in the menu, you can actually change any vehicle that you've collected in the world and use that vehicle. And then we have mods, so that we want to add those to the vehicles. So nitrous, any vehicle that you've asked the rebels to deliver to you will have nitrous on it if you have it unlocked, obviously. Or if you've ever seen Knight Rider, there's like a button in kit, which I always loved as a kid, which was like, I pushed the button and it just jumped. The car just leaped into the air. It was called the turbo jump button, which never made any sense, but it was awesome. And so we have that button in the game because it's awesome. And you can attach it to any vehicle that you have the rebels deliver, be it a tractor or a bus or a boat. I mean, you can take a helicopter and add nitrous to it, and it becomes like Airwolf. And that's the kind of joy of the game, is you look at all these systems and you're like, yeah, but what if I do this and turn this on and take this vehicle? Well, oh yeah, it works. That's awesome. And that sense of discovery is what hopefully makes people smile for hours and hours as they play the game. You play Just Cause and you can give pain to other people. Enjoy. Pain and joy.
So for people who don't know the Doubleclicks, you sing songs about being awkward, you sing songs about cats and dinosaurs, and I hear there's a banana suit that gets involved at some point.
I entered this scene through rejection, and on honesty. Nerds weren't mean, they were weird, and that worked for me. After 10 years of teasing, when social skills failed me, Dungeons and Dragons cured all that ailed me.
We are two sisters. We have a cello, we have a guitar, ukulele, we have a keyboard that looks like a cat that meows. The show occasionally involves capes and bananas costumes, and we just sing about the things that nerds like games and prehistoric creatures, being awkward cats and dinosaurs, and it's a really good time. We mostly exist on the internet. We play a lot of live shows at conventions and stuff like that. We came here for PAX. We were able to squeeze in a few other things, which was amazing. We got to drive up to Sydney, we got to see Newcastle, we got to see some wallabies and koalas, and just really decide that we need to come back to Australia sometime soon.
Absolutely. I mean, and obviously playing here, playing to your people, they're going to want you to be happy and they're going to be supportive. What was it like playing to normal people at normal gigs?
Oh, we very rarely play to normal people.
We don't want your judgment and we don't need your pity. This is where I wanna be, hanging out with cats at parties.
I find that most people have an inner nerd. A lot of humans are cat people, even if they've never played Dungeons and Dragons. So it works out pretty well. We don't really find ourselves playing for non-nerd people. They usually just take one look at us and run away, I think.
I've got nothing to prove. I've got nothing to prove. I've got nothing to prove.
What have you done to get here? What's been the history and the lead up?
Sure. We started writing songs in 2009 and playing for normal people at normal gigs, which was very confusing. They were laughing more at the fact that we were saying Dungeons and Dragons instead of with us. But very shortly, starting in 2011, we found the nerds. And because of the internet, they hung around. So we play a lot of conventions. We do a lot of our own tours playing at game stores. So we've played hundreds of shows. We've uploaded hundreds of videos to YouTube as well with all of our weird songs. Usually we enlist the help of our internet community to make the videos with us. And then we just keep doing it. Because of a Kickstarter and some other crowdfunding, we were able to make this our full-time job. And so now we just exist on the internet making things, and it's wonderful.
Two heads are better than one, and she's got way more than two, so she can get the job done. 4 of them are working if one takes a break. Vote for 5 snakes in one pantsuit, vote for President Snakes. President Snakes, President Snakes, rocking the campaign trail, it's President Snakes.
Where to from here? I'm going to throw to Aubrey because she's got the answer.
Next, Aubrey. Oh man, this is a good quiz. We're gonna do more shows at the end of the year. We have all sorts of stuff coming up on YouTube. We're gonna put more music videos up, and that is a really good place to keep track of us on YouTube and on our website, thedoubleclicks.com, because we have new things coming out all the time.
And if people want to purchase your music, if they don't want you only to exist on the internet and they want you to exist in their pockets,
Yes.
where can they get your stuff and what can they get?
They can get all of our albums on iTunes or Amazon. We're on Spotify. Thedoubleclicks.com has all the links. And we also can be supported on patreon.com/thedoubleclicks, where people can help us make music videos and also pay rent and eat.
All very important things. Thank you guys so much for coming to Australia. I'm so glad that you've had a good time.
We had a wonderful time. Thank you for having us on your show. Thank you.
I've got nothing to prove. I've got nothing to prove. I've got nothing to prove. Haters are gonna hate.
Why are you doing all the talking? Why is Aubrey not talking?
Good question, Aubrey.
Thank you for this question. I'm good now. Yeah.
That's all the words she can say at once.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, it's the final episode for the year, so we're taking a moment to reflect on 2015 before looking forward to 2016 and what the future might hold for gaming. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.